Hi, it's Norman Kochannek here for Extra Time, reporting from the Sydney Cricket Ground, the SCG, on a rather drizzly, overcast day here in Sydney. Dave Warner and the Australian team, as well as Rohit Sharma and the Indian team, have been practicing at the Melbourne Cricket Ground today, preparing for the SCG test, which will come on the 7th of January. Dave Warner, despite his groin injury, has been training and batting quite steadily and quite hard and with a great deal of intention. His batting seems to be pretty sound from what we're seeing. Not a great deal of problems with his lateral movement. In terms of course, of his fielding, however, that may be another issue. In fact, he's stated himself that he's nowhere near 100%. I'm arguing about 70%. And with that, he's going to have some difficulty and will struggle with this test coming up on the 7th of January. In fact, his position in the team is not 100% yet, but I think they're giving every possibility to be ready for that match. He's had appropriate treatment and injections and alternative treatment to actually get him ready for the match. So based on what we saw today with his trainer, he looks like he's in a pretty reasonable position to be able to take part in the test. Rohit Sharma also was batted in the nets today and also looks like he's quite good. The overall standard of batting has been particularly strong. But there are some distinct issues around the Australian team, and I must bring this to your attention. It hasn't been since 1933 that Australia has been in what would be arguably a disturbingly poor batting position in terms of form. Going back to the likes of Fred Spothers and George Lohmann, that was a time when Australia last had such a struggle, who was finding it so tough, especially in Australia. It's amazing, the average run per wicket now, that's the average one per wicket this summer, is just 21.50. The lowest in any Australian summer since 1887, 1888. It's 133 years. It's quite an incredible position to be in. It's a far cry from the mark of which they left on 34.01 when Warner and Labuschagne were batting against Pakistan and New Zealand last summer, in fact, or even the 30.03 that was actually the last Indian tour 2 years ago. So this 21.50 is remarkably low. Again, that is the average run per wicket which falls, 21.50. Looking at average scores of no more than 200, it's quite remarkable. Let's see if the third test changes that. I rather doubt it. Certainly not from an Australian perspective. India certainly has proven to be in a better position all round. Another set of facts that are rather interesting, and I must bring it to your attention. Since Steve Smith scored 111 in Dharamshala in 2017, there's been 135 Aussies that have walked out to bat in tests against India. So that's in the last 3 years, 135 bats. Not one test century. A top score of just 79 from Marcus Harris, who's in the mix for the 7th of January's match. But of course, Pucovski still is there as well with his concussion issues. They're still looking at a preference of him. They want a right-hand batter. I'm pretty sure that's what they're looking for with Warner and Pucovski. So Warner plays, Wade will go down the order, and Pucovski is more than likely to open. But Marcus Harris is still fighting around. He's the last person to score a total of 79 runs in an innings. So it's just quite low indeed. Only one innings of 200 plus balls. That was actually Usman Khawaja, another player that could be considered but isn't being considered for this test. Only 11 50s in that period since 2017, and only 2 bats with more than 50 as a score. Certainly not a plausible situation by any stretch of the imagination. So Dave Warner batted pretty well in the next day. Let's hope he ends up playing, even though he won't be 70% fit. He certainly is capable of centuries. This is Norman Kochannek here for Extra Time. Please don't forget to view, like and share the posts and be able to provide us with feedback. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and to Extra Time, and comments and welcomed at any time, and feedback as well. That's Norman Kochannek for Extra Time.